Sorry, I had to start with that. Hi, I'm Persolaise. A very happy new year to all of you and welcome to episode 11, this year's first episode of Love at First Scent. And as I say, I had to give this a display because this was a Christmas present from one of my nieces, and I actually thought it might be quite a nice way to start off these broadcasts. So thank you very much, niece. You know who you are. Take one, scene one, however you want to call it. I think we should start by sniffing a perfume, and I know lots of people are waiting for this one, so am I actually. I can't wait to open it, but I'm going to make you wait a tiny little bit longer and maybe just give some people a bit more time to tune in, and we will go to this one, which is equally worthy of our anticipation. It is the latest flanker to Prada's Candy, and as you can see, it's called Sugar Pop. Can you just see? I've got some glare there from the lights, and I think we need to get straight into it. I'll say a proper hello after we've sniffed this one in what is becoming a sort of tradition. I seem to be saying hello after the first perfume, but I do hope you're all well. Please let me know where you are and how you are. Now, the original Candy, if you remember, came out in 2011, which seems almost impossible. I'm just going to check that out, and I will also just make sure that all systems are go here on the iPad so that I know that you are able to watch me. At the moment, nothing seems to be happening on the iPad. The wonders of technology. Okay, here we go. The original Prada Candy came out in 2011, and I was a big fan of it actually, because I thought if you're going to do a sweet, sticky caramel perfume, Prada Candy is precisely how you do it. I also liked a lot of the flankers. I thought they did a particularly good job with Candy Floral, because it was quite unexpected. The emphasis was actually more on the floral parts rather than the candy, which was a smart move, a canny move. So this one would imply that they're going all out with the sweetness. Candy Sugar Pop. So who knows what we've got in store. I liked the bottle, and I think I'm going to like this bottle as well. So let's see. Right, let me show off the bottle. There's the sort of removable cap. But these candy bottles are fantastic, aren't they? There's a real kind of retro charm to them, but there's something sort of futuristic as well. It's almost like a sort of 1960s version of sci-fi. You would imagine a bottle like this being in the Jetsons' house. For those of you who are old enough to remember the Jetsons, yellow accent there to go with the packaging. And I know nothing about it at the moment apart from its name. I've got the press release waiting, so let us see what this is going to be like. First nerve-wracking moment of the year. Is it going to be vile? Apparently, I've been told, this is also relevant in relation to the fact that the film Molly's Game is out at the moment, I've been told that I must never play poker because my face, it seems, is too revealing. And apparently I can't hide from you when I do or don't like a perfume, so here we go. This could go horribly wrong. Sorry, Sugar Pop. I said Candy Pop, didn't I? Candy Sugar Pop from Prada. Okay. Oh. That's fascinating, because it's actually nowhere near as sweet as you would have expected from that name. I was preparing myself for a real sickly, overwhelming ooze of caramel. This is actually quite citrusy to start with. So maybe the emphasis is on the pop. Maybe it's all supposed to be like bursting with little champagne bubbles of sugar. Quite citrusy, and it's got that sort of non-citrusy fruitiness as well, like a sort of berry fruitiness. Really, so far, quite unexpected. The sweetness may come through, but that main idea of the original Candy, which was basically caramel over lots and lots of woods and loads of benzoin and musks, has very much been cleaned up, and it's quite aldehydic. And you know what else it smells like? I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but then, hey. It smells like a kind of variant of Chanel No. 5 L'Eau. It's kind of trying to do that clean, vanilla, musky, vaguely floral thing. And now, of course, I want to do a side by side with No. 5 L'Eau, and it's a complete coincidence that this is here. By the way, I've sort of populated the table today with things that many of you will recognise, things that aren't brand new releases, because I actually thought it's an opportunity to show off some of my favourite things, and I thought I'd put this golden No. 5 body oil here just because I think it looks amazing. But now I'm thinking they are not unrelated. Yes, that is my initial assessment. This is like a sort of sweeter, slightly more lickable version of Chanel No. 5 L'Eau, which is no bad thing, but not what you would have expected from Sugar Pop. It's gone on a bit of a diet, but that's fine. Let's check out the press release. Okay. Okay, so they've got the lyrics from the I Want Candy song. Prada Candy Sugar Pop, the newest expression of the Prada Candy family, is a scent as addictive as a pop song. Like the brightly coloured fuzz of pop art, it's soaked in sophisticated irony. An irony where candy and sugar are metaphors for the irresistible sweetness of an object of desire. Love equals addiction. Watch out for the word addiction in perfume advertising. We are going to be seeing more and more and more of it. Everything is about addictiveness. When candy is satisfying but its power is dangerously irresistible, the metaphor becomes mixed. Longing is like withdrawal. He's still with me. That's the energetic, expansive edge Prada Candy Sugar Pop elides. Don't you love her? Press release. Here we go. Delicate notes of fresh peach and earthy vanilla mingle with vert de bergamote and mahonial, which is a very sort of specific ingredient, topped with shiny apple and green citrus, comprising an unexpectedly substantial scent story. Unexpectedly substantial scent story. The funny thing is, I was kind of expecting this to be insubstantial and fizzy and light and frothing because of the Sugar Pop, but actually it is more substantial than I thought it would be. The iconic Prada Candy Sugar Pop bottle pays homage to a now classic tritone Prada Saffiano leather bag. That I would not have been aware of, so I need to take their word for that. In pastel colours that glow with Prada's singular wit. I will give them that. The original Prada bottle was very, very witty, and I think this one is as well. And here endeth the press release. So quite a tame press release as far as most of these go, and I can tell you as well that this is going to be launching nationwide, in the UK at least, towards the end of February, so you've got to wait a little while to try it. 24th of February I've got here. And that's it. Promising start. I almost wonder if the packaging and the colours in the bottle are going to put off the people who would like this. You kind of, on this initial sniff on the blotter, you kind of get the feeling that maybe it should have been called Candy Light, or both senses of the word light would have worked there, because it's actually luminous. So maybe with sugar, because my initial reaction to the word sugar is to think really, really sickly, sweet, really overpowering, but maybe actually what they want to convey is a sense of fineness, a sort of delicate powdered sugar, so maybe more icing sugar rather than heavy fondant icing. And pop, I suppose, is a word that implies a certain lightness, so maybe we need to be thinking that way. I have no idea what the advertising imagery for it is going to be like, but maybe that's going to emphasize a kind of lightness. But first perfume of the year, and promising start. I would certainly recommend this to somebody who likes a little bit of sweetness but wants it to be cut with some intelligence, which was of course the hallmark of the original candy anyway. it concealed its silliness. It concealed its intelligence under this sort of facade of ditzy silliness, but it wasn't silly at all. So one perfume down, and now I can officially say a huge hello to all of you. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is episode 11 of Love at First Scent here on Facebook Live. Very, very quickly, for those of you who don't already know, the idea behind these broadcasts is that I try to sniff things in front of you for the first time and give you an instant reaction, as opposed to, say, on the blog, where I write written reviews that I've slaved over for hours and hours and hours, and I've had time to think about the scents in question. But we need to bear in mind that these are initial impressions. I'm smelling usually the perfumes on paper. Of course, they can be significantly different on skin. I try to do a status update on Facebook as well, about 4 or 5 hours after the broadcast, to tell you how the blotters have been doing. So those qualifications really are important. These are first impressions, but of course first impressions count, and it's the only way of getting a little bit of interaction with you as well. If you are watching on Facebook, please feel free to ask questions, feel free to give me loads of thumbs up. I would love to know how your Christmases went for those of you who celebrate Christmas. What were your New Year's like? Where are you watching from? I've already had at least one person on Instagram telling me that they're going to be tuning in from the Philippines. I know people watch from Canada. It's just amazing to think that from this, room in my house in the south of England, I can be reaching out to so many people across the world. And I can't even remember if I mentioned this already. What happens a few days after this broadcast is that I upload the videos onto YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you haven't done so already, please give me a thumbs up, leave comments, answer questions. I tend to answer every single question that comes up. And we've got our first question here. Hi Persolaise, this is about the Prada. Do you feel an apple note on top? By the way, I like your peony shirt. Thank you very much indeed. The shirts have become a thing. I feel so much pressure now to make sure that I'm wearing either a different shirt or a really, really bright, happy shirt, especially on YouTube. People comment on the shirts, so thank you very much for the compliment. I hope it passes. I hope it doesn't clash too much with what's behind me. Do I feel an apple note on top? Honestly, no, not particularly. There is a kind of citrusy, fruity note, and the press release said peach. I think I would probably be thinking more along the lines of peach and apricot rather than apple. I suppose the thing that stops it tipping over into apple is that it doesn't have quite that sort of tart bite that you might expect, say, from a green apple note, but it does have that sort of fuzzy, velvety texture that you might expect from peach. So why are you asking, by the way? Have you picked up an apple note from it, or are you just, have you smelt it, or are you just asking because you were wondering if there's an apple note in it? So, with almost 15 minutes gone, I think we should start with the one that got lots and lots of people excited when I mentioned it on Instagram last week, and it's this one here. Actually, it was partly because of the response on Instagram that I thought I need to get my act together and organise the next Love at First Scent very, very quickly. And it is the new Tom Ford, and not only is it the new Tom Ford, but it's the new Tom Ford Private Blend, which is always an exciting event. It's called Vanille Fatale, or Vanille Fatale, I suppose. But this is even more nerve-wracking. I say, is it more nerve-wracking than the Prada? I don't know. It's at the very least equally nerve-wracking, because you just don't know. I'm glad when the first perfume I can give a thumbs up to. But I suppose, why am I thinking this is a little bit more nerve-wracking? I think it's because generally I do like the private blends from Tom Ford. I love Santal Blush. I'm a huge fan of Tuscan Leather, even though I don't wear it because a member of my family wears it, and then I always sort of think, well, if I wear it, I'll be kind of associating myself with them too much. It's a little bit odd, that, isn't it? You don't want to wear a perfume that somebody you know very well wears. Noir de Noir I like very much, unless I'm mistaken, when Base Notes a couple of years ago did a huge poll to see what was the most popular fragrance on Base Notes of recent times. I'm pretty sure Tobacco Vanille came up as number one. So we expect a lot from Tom Ford's, and we particularly expect a lot from the private blends. They are pricey, they're available only at the Tom Ford boutiques and at high-end department stores. But there's no question that, personally, I think they're a bit of a mixed bag. The oud that came out last year, which I think I smelt for the first time on Love at First Scent on one of the episodes, I wasn't crazy about. It was called Oud Mineral, but I loved the reissue that they did last year of their Moroccan wood. They did 2 intense flankers of some of their other ouds, which I thought worked very well, so you never quite know which way it's going to go. And I suppose one of the reasons why I'm a little bit worried about this one is because it has the word vanilla in the name, and I'm not opposed to vanilla per se, but vanilla is something of a little bit of an easy sell. If you stick vanilla in a perfume, people tend to gravitate towards it, and so you hope that if somebody, especially a brand like Tom Ford, are going to put the word vanilla in a perfume name, they're not doing it as a kind of easy shorthand just to grab people's attention. But have I waffled on enough? I don't think I can delay this any longer. I think we just need to smell this. Vanille Fatale from Tom Ford. This is when I need to wear a mask so that you kind of don't see my real reaction. Here we go, people. Right. Okay, it starts off a lot drier than I thought it would. What's happening here? It's almost like burnt woods, and so maybe that's why it's fatale. The vanilla's been burnt to death on a bonfire. It's not an easy one, this one, but then that's kind of that's a positive, because it sort of touches on exactly what I was saying a few minutes ago, that you want a vanilla, you would like for a vanilla to be interesting, somewhat more challenging, because what's the point of doing another predictable vanilla? We've got about 17,000 of them on the market already. Now, if I didn't know any better, I would almost say that this is a vanilla that's married to a kind of bitter almond note. I'm thinking now, I'm reminded of Hypnotic Poison from Dior, which has a very, very, very acrid, sharp bitter almond note, almost like a sort of cyanide note. Do I mean cyanide? I think you know what I mean if I don't mean cyanide, maybe. Oh no, arsenic. Sorry, arsenic, not cyanide. Arsenic. So actually, in terms of the concept and the narrative, this business of it being fatal, maybe being like a poison, works. Who knows? Maybe the perfumer was thinking of Hypnotic Poison. Maybe the perfumer is Annick Menardo, who was the perfumer of Hypnotic Poison. Tom Ford don't tend to reveal the identities of their perfumers. We usually get to find out who made each one, but I don't know who made this one, and I would imagine that if we went and looked online now, we probably wouldn't be able to find out quite yet who made this one. So what else have we got? We've got definitely a woodiness, definitely this bitter almond note, which is kind of like marzipan with all of the sweetness sucked right out of it, so it kind of catches you in the back of the throat, but in an interesting way. Some kind of pinky floral suggestion just to sort of round things off and stop things from being too plain harsh. Maybe almost something like coffee to attach to the bitterness of the almond. And actually, not exactly a very, very overt, you need to go on a diet right now, vanilla. I think there's a kind of fuzz of sweetness in the background, but maybe that's something that would come with time. So I'm intrigued. I'm not sure it's instant love, but sometimes when it isn't instant love and you start off being intrigued, that's quite a good thing. And I'm intrigued enough to think to myself that I want to wear this tonight. I'm hoping to go and see the new film about Winston Churchill. It's called Darkest Hour, so I don't really know if Fatal Vanillas are going to be tying in very well with World War II, but interesting. Far more interesting than the Eau de Mineral that came out last year. Now, the press release, such as it is, that I've got for this is just a little postcard, so it won't take very long to read. Tom Ford, Vanille Fatale, impassioned, transfixing, and defiant. Vanille Fatale is a force of nature personified. No, it's not personified. It's not a person. It's perfumified, if anything. So get... Anyway. A beguiling tempest that takes over like a rush of blood to the head. Oh, don't you just love these sorts? So a tempest that's like a rush of blood to the head. I love it. The impossible becomes real. Too good to be true becomes true. Her or his unrelenting hold is fixed, refined yet raw, polished yet primal. Notice the alliteration. The stirring spice of saffron and coriander opens the scent. I'd certainly go along with the saffron. That could have been the dryness I picked up. Coriander, maybe. Coriander is so distinctive. It's not overt, so nothing particularly stands out. In fact, overall, this is quite abstract, really. It's very, very well blended and seamless. It's not as though there's one particular thing being overly prominent. Saffron and coriander opens the scent, infiltrating the senses with the gripping incense of myrrh and olibanum. Okay? I'd go along with the incense. Reverberating with the tobacco-like pull of roasted barley. Have you ever reverberated to the pull of barley? It's quite an experience, I can tell you. You will never be the same again. Oh, you've got to laugh. Reverberating with the tobacco-like pull of roasted barley. The heart of Vanille Fatale is a perfect storm of roasted coffee absolute. Okay, we've got one then, coffee. Andrew Summerley is watching. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for tuning in. Roasted coffee, narcissus and frangipani that seduces with grounded floralcy. I need to reread that sentence without interrupting myself. Reverberating with the tobacco-like pull of roasted barley, the heart of Vanille Fatale is a perfect storm of roasted coffee absolute, narcissus and frangipani that seduces with grounded floralcy. Discuss. If anybody can make head nor tail of that, I will be very impressed. Madagascan vanilla blends with rich mahogany. Its smoky glamour made all the more exotic with primal suede at the finish. I liked Primal Suede's last record. I thought it was very good. And no release date. Perhaps I got a release date in an email, so maybe on Facebook I will post what the release date is. Now, that press release. I guess we had coffee and vanilla and woodiness in common. What was that just fell? Oh, that's my joy. There you go. There's a metaphor for you. Joy has fallen down. But press release aside, this is interesting. Now, I saw a few comments going by as I was chattering away. Angeline says, sounds seductive, like a mysterious femme fatale type of scent. Absolutely, except I think I would go more with intriguing rather than seductive. I think there's just something about it that's a little bit... Don't get too close, but of course that in itself can be a very seductive quality, can it not? Willie, hello to you as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. And Roxana says, try Vanille Fatale on skin. What, right now? Maybe I'll do that at the end, or maybe I'll do that before I go to the cinema, if indeed I do end up going tonight. But not an easy sell, I don't think. So hats off to Tom Ford for not going for the easy sell. Because if there is any brand that can make something that's not an easy sell well, because they have frankly got the clout and the resources to be able to do that, it is Tom Ford. And so I think they should use their position to actually try and broaden things out a little bit and make them interesting. Roxana says, try it at the end. Okay, I will do my best, Roxana. Let's see how we get on. Yeah, fascinating. Okay, I think it's time that we moved on. I've got another one here for which, sadly, I cannot show you the bottle. I think I need to be doing more of not being swayed by the bottle. Obviously, it is great to be able to share the bottle with you, and the bottles look good on the table and they look good on the screen. But very often, especially from more artisanal brands, smaller brands, more independent brands, I don't get the full bottle, or sometimes, I get the samples myself in the little vial. So all I have got of the next one that I would like to share with you is this. But let's get the direction right. Can you see that? So not terribly much to show you there, I'm afraid. But you can look up the bottle online. The brand is DS Durga, the New York-based brand, unless I'm mistaken. A lot of you will be fans of it, I am sure. This one came out last year, I think, but it is new to the UK. And I was sent this vial just a little while ago, and I thought I could save this one for today as well. Interesting brand. Husband and wife brand. The husband, who I believe is called David, he is the DS, I think, in DS Durga. He is the perfumer. They do a lot of very interesting, quite independent-minded work. I'm not crazy about all of it, but I do enjoy a lot of it. There is a beautiful cedar that they do, which, unless I'm mistaken, is called Bombay Radio. By the way, please do feel free to keep questions and comments coming, and thumbs up and hearts and all the rest of it. And you haven't told me, nobody's told me where they are yet today. Just unless you're watching this under the guise of secrecy, just let's try and get the geography of this broadcast and find out where we all are. This is called Vio Volta, or Vio Volta. I'll go with Vio. And let us find out. It's not even working. What? Right. I think we need thumb power here. Oh, thank you for the hearts. Somebody loves me. Right. Vio Volta from DS Durga, and wow, instant whiff of violet leaf. Whoa, it's like suddenly I've buried my face in massive pile of freshly cut leaves, and Willie is in Queens, New York. Fantastic, amazing. I just love the fact that somebody's watching from so far away. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wow, this is and I'm going to get your name wrong, I'm sorry. Is it Eglia? Is that how you say your name? Is watching from London. Best city in the world. Best city in the UK at the very least, I think. Well, that certainly cleared all the sinuses in the way that violet leaf does. Violet leaf has got this lung opening capacity. It's a weird sort of freshness because, and Roxana says, from the Black Sea, that is all I'm going to say. Well, that's plenty. Thank you very much. That's all I needed to know. And watching from the Black Sea, wow, doesn't that sound romantic? I'm watching from the Black Sea. Luke Alderson says, from Waterlooville in the United Kingdom. Where is that? That sounds like a made-up name. I don't believe you, Luke Alderson. Back to this one. Violet leaf is a material that we call green. Oh, I've got another one. Somebody's watching from Boston. Amazing. That's Roger. Thank you very much for tuning in, Roger, in Boston. This is just the magic of the internet is superb. But let me smell this perfume. Okay, now stop telling me where you are. If you want to get an idea of what a violet leaf opening might be like, reach for your nearest bottle of Fahrenheit by Dior, although its violet leaf opening isn't quite as hissy and loud and strident as it used to be when Fahrenheit first came out. That's been very much toned down. But it really does have that sappy, like if you were to take a leaf and cut it in half and then just bury your face in it, that supremely natural smell that starts heading in the direction of camphor, starts heading in the direction of maybe sticking your nose in a bottle of Vicks. So that there is something about it that actually makes you recoil, as I did straight away with this one. But having said that, though, I do think it's a beautiful smell. A lot of people can't take violet leaf at all. It works tremendously well in masculines because it's fresh but it's dry. I think that's one of its main characteristics. It's got that kind of tannin-like dryness of red wine, for instance. Again, that I mentioned this sensation of something catching you in the back of the throat with one of the earlier perfumes. That's what violet leaf always displays for me, or possesses that kind of quality. And this also seems to have a kind of almond-like bitterness to it. Maybe almond is in, who knows? Definitely a kind of cedary, dry woodiness. I mean, a lot of this is dry. Very rare to see in perfumery nowadays. Almost unheard of in mainstream perfumery, because dryness simply doesn't sell, bitterness doesn't sell. But because independent perfumery is so often a reaction to mainstream perfumery, that's where you tend to see dryness and bitterness and sour qualities, which are just fascinating to smell, I think, and fascinating to wear. But I don't know what else there is, and I think that's a kind of interesting feature of DS and Durga. They're, maybe because they want to convey a certain sort of New York chic simplicity, they're not especially multifaceted. And there's always a danger with that style of perfumery. I think if you're going to be more monodimensional, you've got to be pretty damn sure that the monodimension you're going to present is sufficiently interesting. If I keep smelling something and after sort of 10 minutes I think, oh well, it's not really doing anything else, big deal, I lose interest. And I wonder how this one will develop, although there is a kind of patchouli interest coming through. Right, what have I got to tell you about this one? Not a huge amount, actually. The bouquet revolves around the shades of patchouli that create the intense and faceted wake, rich in earthy and sensual shades. Yes, I mean, we talked about earthiness, leafiness. It's the kind of smell that you get if you're doing gardening when it's been quite damp, you know, that sort of damp earth smell rising up out of the soil. The woody notes are exalted by a dense and hypnotic veil of amber cord. Okay, maybe that's the touch of sweetness. That attenuates the composition, making it tender and expressive. Oh, I wouldn't have said tender. I wouldn't have said this is tender at all. I would have said this is actually quite powerfully strident. The violet, there you go, gives an elegant touch to the aroma, and that's it. And I suppose the violet leaf is now heading more into a kind of violet flower note, which is quite different. That's a lot sweeter. So maybe, you know, when I said originally that I was going to pronounce this as Vio Volta, maybe it is actually Vio Volta. Maybe it is a violet scent, and maybe the Volta is supposed to make us think that it turns. I think another one to try out properly on skin. One thing that I will say about DS and Durga, you know, having met the makers, is that they are really, really passionate about perfumery. They are very serious about perfumery, and they're very, very knowledgeable. And so whatever they create deserves our time and attention. And so if the name here is telling me that this perfume might do an interesting about turn, then I want to sort of stick with it for the long run to see what it does do. I'd be curious to know actually if any of you have tried anything from DS and Durga, but sorry I can't show you the bottle. All of their scents have the same bottles, so if you could just Google DS and Durga and you will find out what the bottles look like. Let's have a quick sniff of how the other ones are doing. So let me put the DS away. Right, now for a few minutes you can ask me questions again and tell me where you are. The Prada. Okay, the Prada's become girlier. The Prada's definitely become more pink now. And I think it's moved away from the sort of clean aldehydic associations that I was making with the Chanel No. 5 Low. And it has become sweeter, but it is absolutely not sickly sweet. It isn't that overpowering, you know, lick yourself all over feline-like sugariness of the original candy. but the musks are coming back in, and I guess that's where the candy signature comes across as well. But it's good. It's not. I'm repeating myself here, but this is worth repeating. It's not silly in a way that a lot of these sorts of similar scents are. The composition is done with a certain amount of attention to detail. That press release didn't actually tell us who the perfumer is. I would imagine that it's Daniela Andrié, who has pretty much become Prada's sole perfumer. She did do the original candy. I think she did a lot of the flankers, if not all of them. So I suspect this is her as well. Extremely talented perfumer. Actually, the perfumer behind one of my favourite perfumes from last year, Une Amourette from Et un livre d'orange. Very, very unlike what we would have normally expected from this perfumer, but nonetheless really great. And the Tom Ford, it's like covering a piece of wood in sugar and then throwing that in the fire. And I mean that in a good way. Yeah, fascinating. Fascinating. Right, you are watching episode 11 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise. If you're watching right now live on Facebook, thank you very much for tuning in. Please feel free to keep questions and comments coming and try and give me as many hearts and thumbs up, etc. as you feel inclined to do. If you are watching after the live broadcast on Facebook, please feel free to leave a comment. I usually pick them up and I try to answer as many as I do pick up. And if you are watching on YouTube, which means you are watching after the broadcast as well, please feel free to leave a comment there too and ask me any questions that you would like to ask. At this point, I'd like to try and get 2 more perfumes in, but I just thought I'd leave a few questions with you, which you don't have to answer right now. You can if you like, or you can leave a comment on YouTube. But this is the 11th video I'm doing now, the 11th broadcast I'm doing, and I'm not going to lie to you. When I first started doing them a few months ago on Facebook, I did not expect that by the end of the year I would have got to 10 episodes. I did not expect them to be clocking up 7,000 or 8,000 views on Facebook. I did not expect to have so many regular people coming back and asking comments, leaving comments, asking questions. It's fantastic. That it has happened, but it came as a bit of a surprise. So I thought, looking ahead to this coming year, I would like to do as many videos like this as possible. But I thought it would be interesting to find out what you would like to see. Would you, for instance, like to have some of these videos that maybe veer away from this format to a certain extent and look at single brands? Are you bothered about whether the perfumes I talk to you about are particularly new? Would you like to see a video where, for instance, we talk about classic scents? I guess in that sense, if we did do something like that, I wouldn't be smelling them for the first time in front of you, because when it comes to the classics, I will probably have smelt all of the main ones. But maybe you don't mind. Maybe we can sometimes do an episode of Love at First Scent where the name is a bit of a cheat and it isn't First Scent at all. So let me know. Let me know if the length of the episodes, because we tend to average somewhere between 50 minutes and an hour, let me know if that's too long. Somebody left a comment on a Facebook group that I belong to that they just found out about these videos. Thanks to Nafia, actually. Nafia, who is watching, hello. Put them onto these videos, and they said that they binge watched me 5 hours worth of binge watching Love at First Scent, and they said that was almost as much as they'd binge watched The Crown, which was amazing. I did think to myself that 5 hours spent in the company of me is probably my idea of hell, but clearly it wasn't to this person. So yes, people are binge watching this. Thank you very much to anybody binge watching. But do you think 50 minutes is too long? Do you think shorter bursts would work well? And times of day are interesting. When you do have people watching all the way from South America to Australia, you are never going to find a broadcast time that suits everybody. But I will certainly bear in mind if people said, look, you really need to do them 2 or 3 hours later because otherwise I can't watch. I'll try to vary that a little bit. So some comments have already come through, which is great. Belle says, yes, do classic and vintage. Okay, we can try doing that. Even if it means that we've smelt some of them, we could do that as a side thing where actually we could interact, and maybe I could tell you in advance which ones I'm going to smell. Peggy says, yes, please, to the classics. Okay, great. Another vote for the classics. And Aglia, and again, I hope I'm saying that name right, says, do one retro, one or two new releases, and one of your favourite for some time. Okay, interesting. So actually mix it up in the episode. I like that idea. See, this is why it's worth asking people, because I'm not sure I would have hit on that myself. That would work. I can see that working, sort of saying, by the way, here's a favourite from way back. Thank you very much, Aglia. Any more comments, suggestions, please keep them coming. But I think we should smell another perfume. And I would like to turn to these two guys here, not least because a couple of hours ago I posted a picture of one of these bottles on Instagram, and somebody instantly commented and said, oh yes, please do this brand because I don't know very much about it. It's a UK-based brand called Paul Schutze. I think I may have smelt one of theirs, or one of Paul's, I suppose I should say, on Love at First Scent before, but I could be mistaken. And these are the two new ones. One is called, I'm going to mispronounce this, one is called Quadra, I hope that's right, and this one is called Villa M, so literally just the letter M, Villa M. And purely because Villa M is the one that I posted on Instagram, and one of my followers said, yes, please do it, I'll go with that one. Now these are a little bit of a cheat because these are not first scents, but having said that, it's been ages since I smelt them because I smelt them before Christmas, and honestly I can remember next to nothing about them, so this is as good as a first smell. Very, very simple and yet stylish packaging. So all of the top covers, as you can see, are the same across the range, with this rather interesting grey cutout. Can you see that? But then the bases are a different colour, and then each colour goes with whichever perfume it happens to be. So this is Villa M from Paul Schutze. Standard bottles, rather stylish, silver accenting, which probably doesn't come up on the camera as I'm showing it to you. I'm just trying to make it catch the light, but it probably isn't coming up. So rest assured, the bottles look better than I think they do now on the camera, especially if you're not watching in HD, even though I'm broadcasting in HD, so if you're not watching in HD, you should be. Okay, let's have a smell. So this is Villa M from Paul Schutze, and these are the fourth and fifth perfumes from the brand. The first three got mini reviews on my blog, so go to Persolaise.com and search under the reviews section to see what hang on, that spray didn't work, to see what I thought of the first three. Paul Schutze is not the perfumer, by the way. He doesn't pretend to be the perfumer, which is always refreshing when the person who's not the perfumer doesn't pretend to be the perfumer. We should all be grateful for that. Angeline says, matches the blue accents of your shirt. Yes, so I shall now, until the rest of the broadcast, just let it go. Actually, you are right. It's almost the same blue. I hadn't realised that. Anyway, let's do that right. Let us have a smell. Is there kind of like violet leaf thing happening? So we've got almonds and fresh violet leaf that kind of takes your breath away. But this isn't the same as in the DS Durga. But there is that kind of hint of take a deep breath of air and hold your head up high freshness. But here, it seems to be linked with tea, which is actually making me think I fancy a cup of tea. Yeah, a kind of cross between black tea and green tea. So I guess the green tea is making me think earthiness, a kind of very powdery, desiccated earthiness that you associate with green tea, with matcha. I've overused the word interesting, but it's a word that stands up to repetition. Because maybe in the same way as the DS and Durga, Villa M here, I think, is trying to do freshness, accessibility, approachability, without going for the tired old cliches of let's do a bubbly, effervescent, sweet citrus on an amber base. And there's something spiky about it, like a kind of tea shall I be mother, says Belle. Yeah, you go for it. I take mine black, no sugar. I prefer Earl Grey or maybe Lapsang. There's a spiky woodiness, which I guess is adding this suggestion of intrigue so that you can't quite dismiss it. You know, you sort of want one of the world's most talented perfumers, a perfumer who is at Givaudan, a Mexican chap called Rodrigo Flores Roux. He's probably made some of your favorite perfumes, but he will have had to make them, you know, anonymously, because in a lot of cases the brands don't like the identity of the perfumist to be revealed. He's made a lot of perfumes for Tom Ford. He's also made a lot of perfumes for Arquiste. Supremely talented perfumer, and also extremely articulate man who can talk about his art very, very clearly and lucidly. I mention him because he says that he always likes to make a perfume contain a sort of sense of there being a pebble in your shoe. So a tiny little pebble in your shoe. So something that you can live with, something that you kind of think, oh, I can't be bothered to take my shoe off to get rid of the pebble, but you're constantly aware of it, and it's always there, like this thing that is just kind of niggling away at you, refusing to let you forget the whole sensation of walking, because of course when you have a pebble in your shoe, you are more aware of the act of walking. And the best perfumes have this intriguing little something that stops you from being able to dismiss the perfume outright, stops you from being able to go, oh yeah, I've worked this one out, figured it out, nothing more to say. Another classic example of that sort of perfume, for instance, is Une Fleur de Cassis from Frédéric Malle. As Luca Turin said in his book, although I can't remember, sorry, to be fair, I can't remember whether it was Luca Turin who reviewed that perfume in their book or whether it was Tania Sanchez, but I think in that case it was Luca Turin. He said that Une Fleur de Cassis is the sort of perfume that you need to wear several times before you can even begin to approach figuring it out, because it has all of these elements that just wrong foot you and make you think that just because you thought you were getting somewhere, you were wrong. And on this initial sniff now, Villa M does seem to possess that quality, because even though it's fresh and bracing and maybe kind of ozonic, there's something also a little bit almost like petrol about it, or petrol flames, that just makes you think you need to spend more time with it. Now, I do have a press release for this one as well, which hopefully will explain what Villa M is. Right, so here we go. The existing fragrances within the Paul Schutze perfume collection evoke specific moments of time and space. Fleeting and ephemeral, they are distinct olfactory memories that the artist has endeavoured to capture and recreate through scent. Similarly, wow, lucid sentences, thank you very much whoever wrote this. Similarly, his latest creations, Villa M and Quadra, each have their own unique story to tell. Schutze, who has been developing fragrance in the context of his work, created each of the perfumes himself and developed a process that mirrors his approach to creating an artwork. All my work as, this is him, a quote from him now, all my work as an artist, regardless of the medium, has been about capturing ephemeral, elusive moments and locations, places and memories which change and evolve even as we try to recall them. What better material to express these fugitive qualities than perfume, a direct line to the unconscious mind, trigger of memories and waking dreams. Well, you can actually read this press release, what a relief. So, here we go. Villa M, inspired by Curzio Maleparte's astonishing cliff-top home on the island of Capri. Villa M situates the wearer on the sun-drenched terrace, watching the sea and sky kiss at an azure horizon. Okay, so it is that Villa M. If you're not sure which one it is, Google it. You'll see an image. You'll probably recognize it straight away. Flanked at its back by the island's lush vegetation and cooled by the salted spray of the sea below, Villa M dreams at the meeting point between land, sky, and sea. And yeah, I'd like that description of the meeting between land, sky, and sea is actually probably spot on as far as this is concerned, because it has got something celestial and sunlit about it. We mentioned earthiness, vegetation, and we mentioned the sort of ozonic. So if that was the idea, then they've pulled it off. And the notes include ambergris, cedar, cyclamen, hay, mimosa, pink pepper, and seaweed. Okay, so maybe what I was reading as violet leaf is the kind of iodine-like facets of seaweed, because seaweed will have a sort of iodine-like collection. Then there's a little bit about the other perfume, which obviously we won't smell now. And then another quote from the man behind the brand. Villa M and Quadra are the first two fragrances in a series directly inspired by iconic architecture. When buildings embrace and celebrate their locations, they evolve as extensions of the landscape, transcending mere bricks and mortar. They become like physical poetry. I've always found this completely thrilling, and with these two perfumes I want to locate the wearer in the magical zone generated by these exotic structures. I would say well worth checking out, and unless I'm mistaken, they are available at Roulier White, which is one of the best perfumeries in the UK, but obviously, as we now know, many of you are not in the UK, so if you just Google the brand, you should be able to find out where your nearest stockist is. They're certainly available at Liberty, even if they're not available at Roulier White. A little bit about him. He was born in Melbourne, Australia, and following art school enjoyed an early career as a film composer, culminating in winning the AFI Award for Best Original Score in 1987. But they don't say which film that was for. Following his move to London in 1992, he signed to Virgin Records and over the next decade produced nearly 30 albums of original works. Okay, so he's a musician. In 2000, he was invited to be a part of the Sonic Boom exhibition at the Hayward Gallery. The installation piece entitled Third Sight was critically acclaimed and marks the launch of his career as a visual artist, a career that has seen the artist exhibit throughout Europe. So obviously a man of many talents, and certainly doing some rather interesting things with perfume. Had another comment, so sorry while I'm doing all of this, picking up various bits and pieces of technology, from Roxana. Regarding the video format, okay, thank you. Maybe you could add more perfumes to the broadcast by reducing or dismissing the time allocated to reading the press releases. Good point, except I think, and we'll see what other people feel, I think the press releases make a kind of interesting counterpoint to my initial impressions, because I think it's important as well to try to acknowledge what the intention behind the perfume is, and I sometimes find it helpful, well, I often actually find it quite helpful to read the press release and then kind of think, okay, well, do I agree with that or do I disagree with that? But I will certainly bear that in mind, and I will be very interested to know what other people think. And so, moving swiftly on, because I can't believe it, it's already 3:25 here in the UK, almost 3:25, but I would like to get a fifth perfume in. And again, it's one for which all I can show you is this tiny, teeny little vial that I purchased myself from Lucky Scent. If any of you get samples from Lucky Scent, then you will immediately recognize the little Lucky Scent label. And because this is a little bit awkward and very, very difficult to get perfume out of this onto a blotter, onto paper, I'm actually going to be really, really brave and go straight for skin on the back of the hand. But this is the latest from Bruno Fazzolari. Very, very interesting brand. Again, a lot of Fazzolari's previous scents I have reviewed on the blog on Persolaise.com. I think at least two of them are wonderful. I love Eau de la, which is a really beautifully vintage retro feeling type scent, and Lamp Black I thought was really great as well. This is called, I don't know how you say it, is it Ummagumma or Ummagumma? So you kind of think that it's going to be quite gummy, but anyway, because I'm determined to finish before the half-hour mark, let's just get some on skin straight away. Bruno Fazzolari's scents, if you're in the UK, are definitely available at Roulier White, the perfumery in Dulwich. And this is certainly filling the air with gumminess. It's really good though. It's boozy chocolate liqueurs, but wow, really, really photorealistic chocolate liqueurs actually, but cut with the sort of dryness of cocoa. So it's not sickly sweet. So we started with sweetness and we end with sweetness. But it's got the gumminess as well, and I wonder if that's coming from myrrh and opoponax, because those two materials have both a chocolatey and a rubbery, gummy quality, which would tie in with the sort of boozy, liqueur-filled, cognac-filled chocolates that I'm getting from the beginning. This has been a good day. There are too many of these that I want to wear. I want to wear the Tom Ford. I definitely want to give this one a proper wearing. I would like to wear the DS Durga. So we've done well today. What else have we got though? Maybe a suggestion of coffee, although not quite bitter enough to be coffee. Something incensey. So that could be the sort of the resins that I'm thinking that are making me think of myrrh and opoponax. But what's interesting, what's worth mentioning about it as well, is that it doesn't have the kind of hitting you over the head with a mallet crudeness that a lot of scents like this would have when they're done by the independent side of the perfume world. I said earlier in the broadcast that so often the niche sector, the independent sector, whatever you want to call it, acts in a kind of reactionary way to the mainstream, and so they end up creating things which maybe aren't quite as polished as they might be, quite as finished. They want to kind of be loud and brash, like the sort of perfumery equivalent of a stroppy teenager that says, no, I'm not going to do what grown-ups do in the world, and I am going to be attention-seeking in a coarse, crude way. This is not doing that. This, at least on this first impression, is a finished, polished, rounded piece of work in its own right. And it's putting a smile on my face, which is something you've always got to be grateful for. So let's just very quickly see what the official write-up is. And again, I haven't got a huge amount about it. Ummagumma is a dark, rich, mysterious, intoxicating amber fragrance loaded with real tonka bean absolute, yeah, fair enough, and notes of chocolate, tobacco, and woody notes. Yes, absolutely tobacco. I should have said tobacco, which actually ties in with Strength from Xenia, one of my favourite perfumes from last year. Ummagumma refers to an infamously heady and weird Pink Floyd album from 1969. Okay, a lot of you may have realised that. Sorry, I didn't. Chocolate and tonka bean create a euphoric gourmand opening melded with the richness of tobacco that gradually gives way to ambery labdanum, cedar and incense, all warmed by soft musks. Perfect for a night out or a night in, it says. Ummagumma is accompanied by a hand-printed... Oh, okay, what's this? Ummagumma is accompanied by a hand-printed limited edition serigraph, signed and numbered, only 50 made. Okay. The print is an original serigraph hand-printed in a signed and numbered edition of only 50 copies. The drawing and design are by Bruno Fazzolari. Okay, so I have no idea whether that still holds, whether that's true. So, very, very super quick sniff of the others. The Prada, yeah, maybe thinning out a tiny bit, but let's see what it does a few hours later. The Tom Ford, becoming more interesting actually. And the DS Durga, still like rush to the head. Okay, thank you very much indeed for watching. As I say, expect a status report on the blotters on Facebook in a few hours. Feel free to leave any questions. And if you're watching on YouTube now, thank you very much. Thank you so much to everybody who tunes in live, and hopefully see you again before too long. Have a very good weekend.